Hey, Warren Eckstein here. What is sound therapy and why is it so important to take this under consideration if you live with a dog or a cat? Well, first of all, we all know the 4th of July is around the corner. You can get started and now's the perfect time to start. A dog or a cat's sense of hearing is so much better than ours. And it's hard to sit down and explain the different noises to our dogs and cats and which ones they should be afraid of and which ones perhaps not. So the thing we really need to do is, first of all, desensitize the dog or the cat to whatever noise phobias they may have. For example, let's say it's when I bought my first Harley Davidson. Before I even started up in the driveway with the dogs, for weeks before that, I played the sound of a Harley Davidson at a very low volume in the house and over a period of time desensitized the dogs to the sound of the bike, and then I counter conditioned the methods. We'll talk about that in a minute. So there's many different phobias. For example, let's say you're excited you're having a baby. The sounds a baby makes can be really scary to a dog or a cat. So desensitizing the dog or cat to those sounds is critical as well. Even on my website, thepetshow.com, or many other places, you can download the sounds of babies burping, being gassy, crying, whatever babies do. And again, what you need to do in all the situations, it works the same with the firecrackers, for example, or if you live near a fire station with a siren comes on. Whatever sound it may be, what we want to do is take the sound that your dog or cat may be phobic about and turn that into something that's not real negative. In fact, we can turn it into a positive. So let's take my Harley Davidson, for example. When I first started playing the volume for the dogs, it was really low. And over a period of weeks and weeks and weeks, and with some cases it could take months, I increased the volume, but made sure that every time I ended, the dogs were really not even paying that much attention to it whatsoever. Then after I got them desensitized to the sound, I said, you know what? Wouldn't it be nice if I can make them enjoy the sound of my Harley Davidson? So that was step number 2. I actually, again, went to the low volume and made sure that every time they heard that in the house, they would go outside, they would play ball, they'd go outside, the ball would be next to the motorcycle. So now they start to associate the sound with something positive. Now, you can do the same thing with any sound. More dogs, more cats get lost on the 4th of July than any other time of year. And the reason for that is because of the loud noises of the fireworks taking place. So what can we do about that? It's important to understand what we need to do is take the time to desensitize. And what I recommend doing is first start out when the dog's in a real mellow, or the cat's in a real mellow, calm state, just hanging out. That's when I'll play it, maybe alongside the TV you're watching, or play the sound of a thunderstorm while you're watching Seinfeld. And again, the more time we spend, because dogs learn through association, the more time they associate that with something positive, the better it's going to be for you. But first thing to do is make them non-fearful of it. Once they're non-fearful of it, and once they actually start to associate it with positive things based on you, then you can have that problem resolved. So, when I was stationed in Europe, and I was working with some real advanced training over there, we had to make sure the dogs would do well under the sound of gunfire. And we kind of use similar principles, and it works. No one wants to see their dog or cat panic-stricken over those sounds. So take the time. Sound therapy, I know it's a different word than most people use. You can't sit down and explain to them, that's a motorcycle, that's a thunderstorm, it'll pass. But if you two take the time to educate, I promise you that you and your dog may be able to enjoy the 4th of July a lot more. But I do stress this, on the 4th of July, no matter how you followed Warren's advice, and now your dog is behaving like Rin Tin Tin, I get it, but listen to me carefully. I don't suggest anyone ever take their dog to an area where fireworks are going to be used. Because if you live in an area where there's a lot of fireworks and you're walking your dogs the next day, is there maybe a firework that someone used in the neighborhood that came into my yard? Are there casings from some of the fireworks that could be dangerous for the dog? Are there other things that can be picked up? So it's important to remember the day after the 4th of July can be just as dangerous, maybe not as much from the sound, with debris that's left behind. Enjoy the 4th. Whatever situation you may have with your dog or your cat, whatever sounds they may be fearful of, if you take the time and the patience, maybe a glass or two of Chardonnay, take it from me, to resolve those noise phobia issues.